Hello, welcome. Here I'm going to be talking about moving a domain from inside GoDaddy, so one of the M365 instances that GoDaddy have for mail. And you can see in this case on the screen here, it's like an Email Essentials account that we've got. We're going to be migrating those accounts across into a true Microsoft 365 tenant. Part of that process is obviously the migration itself. I've covered that in different videos, but what I want to cover off on this one is previously on some of these videos and the procedure for doing this is you then need to contact the GoDaddy support after you've done your migration, and what you do is you then go and delete they tell you to go and delete all the accounts, and then they will defederate the domain name. They'll remove it from that backend tenant for you, and then you can obviously apply it to the new M365 tenant. Now that process obviously works, but to be fair, we don't really want to destroy the source in any true migration effort. What if someone says, oh, I'm missing my contacts, I'm missing my calendar, or some folder's missing an email, something like that's going on. If you've already contacted GoDaddy and actually removed everything, it's gone. I mean, there are ways you can look at restoring deleted users, but it's a pain. It's a hassle to do, so I would rather leave the entire source environment intact, so if we do need to go back to it for any period of time, we can actually go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to show you is how you can do it yourself, how you don't have to contact GoDaddy support to get the domain out, we don't have to delete any accounts, and we can successfully preserve that source environment. I think you'll be surprised how easy this really is to get into the back end and do it. As I say, in previous videos we've contacted support and I've taken you through how we would go ahead and do that. So this one, definitely do this process instead. It's a much better way of handling it to, as I keep saying, preserve that source in case you need it. So what do we need to do? We're going to go into obviously the GoDaddy console here. You can see I've just got one user and it's the admin. So we need to log in as the admin user in here and get into the back end of Azure. So to do that, we go to the portal.azure.com on a new browser window there, like so, and we'll log in as the Clive@bluey.life. Now that's going to send us into the GoDaddy sign-on page, as you'd expect, right there. So we go in and sign in with his account, and you can see we no for that and no there, and you can see now we get the Azure services. And the one we're interested in here, if it doesn't show up on this drop down here, we'll go into Microsoft Entra ID, and this is what you would have seen in the other videos for the migration effort. This is the back end of Azure, but we're quite keen here to learn what this is. This is the actual on Microsoft.com tenant name for this instance, which is the Bluey.life, and we'll be able to see our users in there as well. And if I go to manage and say users, then you'll see we've got there's our admin user, and then we've got the username as well. So we're going to need to go into this user, the admin user, and we will do a password reset there. So I've actually already done this password reset, but we would just do the reset the password there and hit the reset. Write that down. Obviously, you're going to need it when we log in through PowerShell to do this work. So really what you really wanted to capture here is obviously the password you set, but also this here, this admin username, which we're going to use to log in separately with. Now, if we do look at the domains, you look at custom domain names here, you can see there's our Bluey.life. You can see it's federated. Now the issue with just going in and deleting it, because what you'd expect to do is go into the domain here and you just hit delete. Now if I just go and try that now, before I've done any other work, just so you can see what happens, it says all checks are passed, please proceed, and you hit delete, it's going to fail. But it can't do it because of that federation. So what we're needing to do here is two things. Firstly, if I come back to the home here, Entra, let's go into domains again. What we want to do is get rid of this federation flag, and obviously this one is the primary, but then we need to go into those accounts as well and give them the on Microsoft.com as their login effectively. So really take away the Bluey.life away from those accounts, which is obviously an important step to do. We also then, because we don't have federation turned on for those accounts, we then need to go and set a password. Otherwise, there's no way they're going to be able to log in there. So what we do first of all with to get rid of the federation, that's our first step. We do that with PowerShell, and you are going to need to use PowerShell 7 preferably, because we are going to be using the graph add-on for that. If we're going to load all the graph services in, obviously it needs more of that address space. which PowerShell 7 provides. So let's just go into PowerShell 7 and we'll log in with this admin account that we've set up here and see what that looks like. Now in here, if you haven't installed the graph module, all it is, as you can see here, it's just going to take us in there. Oh, let me do that. We would do that install module Microsoft Graph.force. I'm not going to do it here. We've already done that, but that's what you would do to get that graph module in there. So once that's in, obviously it would be, you've got the import module as well. And you can see we've got import dash module, and you would just have Microsoft.graph. And that will then bring that in so we can use it. Can take a little while to actually come in once you've installed it and get it in. It is quite a large module, but it is obviously important to get the whole stack inside there. So I'll just pause this one, it comes back with that. So the next stage is we need to connect to the tenant using that graph module. And we do that, I've put a line in the description of what the command is. So I'm going to paste it in here, but you can see here we're connecting to graph with obviously directory and then domain rights there. Once we enter that, we will get prompted to log in, which will use that the bluey.life account for that. As you can see, pops up here. And once I go in there, I'm already signed in, obviously, but it's going to ask us for these permissions required. I'm just going to say, yep, and we'll consent on behalf of the org if we need to do it again. And we just say accept there. That will then authenticate and come back to this main screen here. So in here, our first command we're going to do is get mg domain, and that will show us the domains we have listed. And you can see we've got bluey.life and it's federated currently, and we've got the other account which is managed. So what we're going to do is we'll run the command to release this federation and turn bluey.life into a managed domain instead. And it's quite easy to do that. All we use is the command, the other command which I've got in the description as well, which we'll put in here. I just typed this one in, but it's update mg domain. You can see it's actually making an effort already for us from a previous one I've done, but it will be bluey.life, and you can see we're going to be changing that, and the authentication type is going to be managed. And that will make that change pretty quickly. Now, if we go up and do the get mg domain again, we should see now they are both saying managed, which is the key thing. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to take away the redirect that happens when you sign in as the bluey.life account. You noticed before it was hooking over into GoDaddy for that authentication. Now it's going to be doing it itself, which is obviously quite a key step. Now, this is why I say you've got to go and reset the passwords, because the passwords were actually kept inside GoDaddy. Now we've got it managed on its own side of things. The accounts will need to have new passwords applied to them once we change that account as well. And that is why, because of that federation type. Now, from this point on, we need to not be logging in as Clive at bluey.life anymore. We need to be logging in as the admin account. That's the one that we set that password on right at the start. Because we're going to be changing that account for Clive. We're going to be changing the suffix and effectively his UPN, so we don't want to be doing that as that user. So really obviously go into your portal again, log in as the admin user, and we're going to carry on from there. So that's going to be a normal Microsoft Entry ID we're going to go into there, and we're going to go into the users and have a look at those. So we can see there's our admin account, but it's Clive at bluey.life that we want to be changing here. So for each one of the users, before we can remove that domain, we need to go into each one, and we're going to be editing the properties of that, and we're going to be changing the domain suffix that they log into. So once we reset the password, if we do need to go and check out any email and things for the old account, we'll be logging in as Clive, and you can see there's the on Microsoft.name there as well. So once we do that, we'll hit save, and you'll see that's now changed. So that we would probably make a note of that one for that user. That's what we need. Obviously, all the suffixes are going to be the same, and it's going to be their alias, but it's good to record them so we know what they are. And we will need to go and do that reset password as well, because obviously they don't have a password currently set because they're no longer federated. So I'm going to say reset password. That will go give us our temporary password, and we're done. So that's obviously important to do, is to make sure that is all reset. But now it means we're actually ready now to pull out that domain. So if we go in here down to custom domain names, we can go into bluey.life, and we should be able to hit delete. Now it talks about here one resource referencing this domain name. That is that Clive account. It hasn't actually managed to refresh yet. If we let it bake in for an hour or so, obviously this is going to go away, but it will actually go through and delete. So if we do hit delete here, and you can see here, we just hit. We are going to need to do that confirmation because we're not waiting for that refresh to happen. We actually can just type it in there and hit delete. It'll make an attempt to do it for us. That will obviously work because we have pulled it out already. Like I say, if we actually let it bake in for an hour or so and come back to this, this wouldn't be here. But we can go ahead with, if it's there, we just hit delete. And you can see the deletion has been scheduled and it will go ahead. So if I go back now into this home, try D, go down to domain names, and we hit refresh, give it a little while, and it will actually disappear for us. So I'm going to come back when we can hit the refresh and watch that it has actually gone. Just while we're waiting for that to go out, I want to show you something else. Now we've turned off that federation, some of those other links do actually work now. So if we go to the admin.microsoft.com site in a new window here, you're actually going to get to see the true M365 user experience from an admin perspective now that we've defederated and we don't have to go through the GoDaddy console. So if we do admin.microsoft.com, you'll see, there we go. This which you wouldn't have seen before, and you can go into those users and check them out. You can do password resets from there if you need to. And you can see here, now look at this here. This is the alias that it's grabbed from, as you can see, the bluey.life. That's what it's waiting for, obviously, to get rid of those accounts. If we want to try and speed things up a little bit, what we can do here is we can go manage username here, and we can get rid of this, delete that alias, save those changes. As I say, it would go through and do it itself if we just left it, but we can obviously speed things up by doing that. So that's not a bad option to have. And you can see just running back into that console now, I did the refresh there. You can see it's now gone, which is good to see. And you can actually look at it through this console as well. If you go into the settings here and look at domains, you can see it is gone from there as well. Now we do have what is looking like a normal tenant, really, which is kind of nice to see. But really, what it's done is it's saying, yes, we're now defederated. It's now gone. The users can log in with those passwords that we set temporarily for them with this as their domain suffix on their UPN, and they are good to go. But what it does mean, and let me show you how this. I'm going to add that now into another tenant, and you can see it does actually work and does actually come through pretty much immediately now this has been done. So just for purposes of the video, just to show you it is complete, I'm going to go into my Cozy Mouse. If you've seen any of the other videos, you'll know Cozy Mouse is my little test tenant here. But if we go into domains here, and there's our standard set, I can go and add a domain, and I can put in bluey.life and say use this domain, and it will not complain that it is in another tenant because obviously it's not. So I'm going to go through here and sign into GoDaddy because obviously it's hosted. The domain registrant is GoDaddy, so we can do that. So I'm going to go and verify those details, and you'll see it appear. There you go, verifying domain. How do we want to connect? Do DNS records? Well, actually, to be fair, the DNS records are going to stay exactly the same, but I can certainly do that connection again and let it do it for us. But you can see it has actually gone in. Say add DNS. That's obviously doing this domain connection. And that should go ahead and do that for us. It will just give us a completed message at the end here. There we go. Domain setup's complete. And you can see now we have the bluey.life added to my test tenant. So I can then obviously then go and apply that to all the UPNs that we've made as part of this migration. But you can see through all of this, if we go back to this guy here, if I do a refresh on this, he will actually still exist. If I go in here and just do that, you'll see is still there. So it's still there inside the GoDaddy backend. So the account's there, the license is live. You can go and use that temporary setup that we have to look at those old accounts until obviously the license expires. It will just stay there. But you can, once you're done, you then go and clean up this side of the house. But it means that you can see we haven't had to delete any users. We haven't had to change anything in terms of the federation by using the GoDaddy support desk. We've managed to do everything ourselves. And you can see here, it is now gone from inside the GoDaddy tenant. So thanks for watching. I hope that was helpful and means you don't need to sit on the line and try and get hold of someone that knows what they're talking about on GoDaddy. And more importantly, you don't need to go and delete any of those accounts to go and perform this task, which is also very nice. Gives you a bit more sanity, I think, in terms of a migration. Last thing you wanted to go and do is go and trash all the source before the users are even logging in to test everything is working. I mean, that's a hell of a stressful situation if you had to do that, and that's the old procedure we had. So with this new one, it gives you a bit more room to breathe and a bit more of a relaxing weekend while you're doing these migrations. So once again, thanks for watching. I appreciate when you guys subscribe to the channel. Obviously, please do so. And look out for the other videos on all things migration related. Do have an awesome day.